Hello, everybody. Welcome to the N10 podcast. I'm your host, DarkSigner22, and here are our guests.
I'm Blast Furnace. Nice to meet you all.
I'm Kandara. Nice to meet you guys as well.
And I am Uso Ellen, and it's nice to meet you all.
Alright, so guys, jumping right in to some E3 news, Vostsphere.
So yeah, in case you guys weren't really aware of what Lostsphere is, it's not exactly a sequel of I Am Setsuna, but it's supposed to be the game that's based off of that. And if you don't know what I Am Setsuna is, which I'm surprised if you didn't know, it's supposed to be another Chrono Trigger-like game made, obviously 20-some years later, and uses the ATB active time battle system, which also is what Lostsphere is going to use, since Lostsphere is based on I Am Setsuna. Many people find I Am Setsuna to be, it's a mixed bag. I mean, the battle system's cool, the story is not very good, the music's okay, so it definitely has a mixed reaction to that game. So everyone's hope, and mine too, is that Lostsphere will expand upon that and be a much better game. Now, try to be a Chrono Trigger-esque game, that's a feat that not many games really have. Chrono Trigger really has everything going for it, so we can only hope Lostsphere succeeds. And the one thing I really hope Lostsphere succeeds in is getting people to buy Nintendo Switch. If this game falls flat on its face, that's not a good thing.
I agree, and I also hope it kind of builds from I Am Setsuna, because I've heard from many people that have played the game and online that I Am Setsuna had like a melancholy overall mood. And I'm fine with some depressing segments, here and there in my games or other media. But if that's the overarching mood, then that'll just kind of defeat any purpose and any desire of me to actually play that game. So I hope they can vary the mood a little bit. I'm sure they will, but we'll just have to wait and see if they do or not.
And, you bring a really good point there, and I think it's worth mentioning, and this may be an apples to orange argument or analogy, but, Tales of Berseria had that same thing going for it, where it had a somber mood to it, and many people may disagree with me on this, but I feel like I Am Setsuna, I didn't really get that mood across the right way it should. Berseria spent most of the time kind of focusing on, 80% of the story being the main character wanting revenge, and it kind of got cringy at times. Now, I'm no expert on I Am Setsuna, but I don't think the characters had that same problem, but the game suffered the same fate that Berseria did, in that, like I said earlier, it doesn't really come across the way it should, being a somber, melancholy type atmosphere. So my hope is that if Lostsphere captures this same, mood that I Am Setsuna did, that, hopefully it'll actually do it the right way, not like Berseria and I Am Setsuna did.
Yeah, I also heard that for Lostsphere, that there will actually be limited physical copies for the PS4 version. And I heard for the Switch that it's digital only, which is a problem considering how the Switch doesn't really have a cloud save system yet. So everything that you download is set to that Switch console itself. So if your console gets broken or whatever happens, then all of that progress for that and all your other games will be gone. So I wonder how they'll deal with that. It's also curious to see how the physical copies will go. I'm pretty sure that they'll make nice collector's items, but I don't know, charging full price for like a digital only game on the Switch, how do you guys feel about that?
I'm not really in agreement with it, and like you said earlier, I mean, if your system fails, then your game goes with it, and the capacity of a Switch isn't probably as much as it is on the PS4 and Xbox One, so if you're low on data and you have to get this game, well, you're not really gonna have any choice. Of course, that is the fate that most digital games suffer, unfortunately. But one thing I did want to mention is the fact that PS4 is gonna have limited copies, like you said, but that still isn't a good thing, especially for this game. And if you really want people to buy your game, this isn't really setting a good precedent. Of course, Does this mean I Am Setsuna didn't sell well? I mean, it probably does, since it's the same studio making it. But I mean, if this is the reality of the situation, I'm a bit worried. But of course, first and foremost, we're gonna have to see how this game fares with the public, and more so, see what the reviews and all this game is gonna be. But this is a bit of an issue. I mean, if you can't really provide this game to many people, no one's gonna get it. I mean, it's not really ideal.
Although I'm personally one that just goes all digital, so I guess I'm sort of indifferent to this issue myself.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I totally understand. I mean, I usually will go digital if I have to, but if a game presents itself being physical, I'll get it just because of two things. One, I like the physical feel of having a game like that.
Of course,
And I know
yeah.
discs can get ruined. That's totally understandable, but I'm usually pretty careful with my stuff. And two, memory storage. Now, I understand consoles are much better than they were previously, but I still would rather have a physical copy because it takes less data, so I can have a bigger
Yeah.
library.
That's a good point.
Exactly. And, like Dark was saying, the Switch doesn't have a cloud system. So if you run out of data, you're going to have to either get a new Switch or delete games. And I don't think a lot of people are would like that prospect.
Or like probably hook up an external hard drive, which is,
Another-
cumbersome and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, and this is kind of stupid, but that's part of the reason why, I ended up getting like a 64 gig, this sounds stupid, but I got a 64 gig micro SD for my 3DS, and I never looked back because that was one of the best purchases
The
ever. And
exact same thing, dude. I did the
Yeah,
exact same thing.
exactly. So, I mean,
Yeah.
did 32.
yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I probably shouldn't be complaining about this because digital itself is fine. I mean, they had Ace Attorney games that were digital. There was one other JRPG that came out within the last year that was only digital. I'm trying to think what it was, but it shouldn't be a problem if the game is doing well. But the only thing that worries about me is I think a lot of people still are used to getting games physically. I mean, we live in the future now in that scenario, so everyone people get stuff digital. It's fine. Blockbuster's extinct now. So, Netflix kind of killed that off, so it all makes sense. But having physical copies, I think, at this point in time is still quite important. So, we'll see how the game sells, and maybe if it sells well enough, something it'll turn heads, and maybe we'll get another game.
Yeah, in
It's
the
like
end, I
Lost
hope
Sphere.
the game does well because we want more, right?
Exactly.
I hope it does well, and it's also just nice to see physical games on your shelf. Like I do have a few. I don't do all digital. I have a few collection of PS2 and 3DS and DS stuff. And yeah, it looks nice on shelf.
I completely agree, and I understand by having I have way too many games myself, so having a shelf of games, I mean, can definitely take up space, and I know a lot of people don't like that. So coming from your perspective, Blast, I understand why you do digital. It definitely saves space physically, but obviously digitally it doesn't. But you can always work around that with external hard drives and stuff. So it's not the end of the world. I mean, external hard
I
drives
don't know.
come
I
in.
was saying that they look nice on the shelf if you have physical.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, the way
but go ahead.
you can go.
Okay. I mean, I like the allure of having games on my shelf too. I mean, I guess if you're not one of if you're not like us, you could probably be aggravated, I'm wasting all this space on games. But I guess not many people really think that way. I mean, I've always been a game collector, so although I do regret selling my Xbox 360 because one, I lost Tales of Vesperia, and two, I lost Lost Odyssey. So, and I never got a chance to play Blue Dragon either, so that kind of sucks.
I like Lost Odyssey. I never got around Blue Dragon though.
Yeah, I mean,
Not missing much with Blue Dragon.
well, I'm glad to hear that then. But I heard Lost Odyssey was good. I mean, I own the game and I played a little bit of it, but I don't really have enough of an opinion based on what I played. But
It's
yeah.
sort of run of the mill, but it was pretty good run of the mill. Like I didn't finish it, but I went like 80% of the way before like other school stuff came in the way. But I enjoyed my time.
Yeah.
That's cool. Didn't who did that game? Was it Square?
No, it was who was it? Mistwalker.
Sakaguchi, after he left
That
from
worked in
FF-12,
Square.
he went to make his own company, and that was Mistwalker. And from what I could tell from their games, at least Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon, they're not super great of a company. Blue Dragon especially, it looks like the greatest RPG of all time, but then they always skimp out on the story. They always
Yeah.
skimp out on the atmosphere. So even if the game looks good and it sounds good, it just sort of leaves you underwhelmed.
How's
Oh,
the
wait,
battle
That's how I thought
system?
about Blue Dragon.
Yeah, how is the battle system? Curious.
Oh, the battle was great in Blue Dragon.
If a battle system's good in an RPG, it can carry me through even if I don't like the story usually.
Yeah, I mean that was the problem with Persona 1 to me. I recently tried playing it, and I heard it has a great story, but
Oh yeah, it's
battle
quite
system is-
archaic that game.
yeah, the battle system is awful. I had to quit it. I couldn't do it anymore. Now I was playing the PSP port of it too, so I mean I don't
which is
know.
supposedly like slightly faster or whatever, but yeah, it still hasn't aged very well. The battle system itself.
Oh, not
One
at
thing
all.
I'm interested in Blue Dragon is about Akira Toriyama doing the art. He also does the Dragon Quest art, of course, and Dragon Ball. So I like his art a lot, and RPGs where you get to play as characters with his art, which is one of the novelties of Dragon Quest and why I like it. It's playing as like Dragon Ball looking characters. I love that.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons I too wanted to play that game. It really had a cool art style to it. Toriyama's always had a really interesting style. I mean, obviously he did Chrono Trigger too, but everything he does really like comes to life. It has its own like a layer to it. I mean, you see it and you know it's Toriyama's work.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I definitely agree. But
That
just to
applies to
kind
Blue Dragon very much.
but just to kind of like backtrack a bit back to like the physical versus digital. I personally, besides Steam and like my Xbox One, I like to go for the physical aspects because I recently listened to a Game Informer podcast episode where they interviewed this guy who started an organization for gaming history, and so he brought up a valid point. He was like, "Oh, down the road, it'll be harder to preserve the games of like past generations because of the more inclined preference to go digital." So that kind of like hit me. I was like, "Oh, I never thought about that." Like because we still have the cartridges and all that stuff, from Nintendo 64 era and like way back. But down the road, like, will there be any physical copies left? Like, what will our descendants, great children, grandchildren, etc. have to play from our days? Because with Nintendo 64 or even now like Switch, I could take a game I have physically and pass it on to a friend or a sibling, but you can't do that digitally. So I think it serves an aesthetic and collector's function, but I think it also serves a very important role in the preservation of gaming culture.
That's a very good point. I really respect that.
Yeah, like being able to give it to someone and let them try it out. You can't do that with digital, it's true. And like I remember getting into so many games just because my friends had it and I tried it at their place or they let me borrow it, right? That's sort of changing now with digital, I guess. So yeah, that's a very good point, I think.
And sorry to totally downplay what you said, Dark, but going back to Sakaguchi, I just realized he was actually the guy who led the development for the last story. Don't know if you guys played that.
Oh, I remember reading about it. I saw some videos on it, but
That was part of Project Waterfall. That Xenoblade and Pandora's Dungeon or whatever it was called. I forget.
yeah, it was Pandora's Tower or Pandora's
Tower. There we
Dungeon.
go. Yeah.
I've heard of him. I haven't played Last Story either. Have you?
Yeah.
How is it?
It's the same thing with Xenoblade. I went through like the first few hours and I stopped playing it, and it was very interesting. Had a very interesting battle system. If I remember correctly, I hope I'm not wrong on this, but I thought it was kind of similar to Final Fantasy 13, which may kind of shake your head. I don't know how you feel about that game. I actually like Final Fantasy 13's battle system a lot. The story is another thing. Like,
yeah, that's one game I strictly only like the battle system, but the rest was like,
yeah, like none of it made sense. Like, just some random people running away for some weird, archaisms that I don't really understand why they exist. And like, I guess the world building in that game didn't really like do well.
Yeah. What turned me off was the linearity in the beginning, because I was really big on 12. I loved 12, and the reason I mainly loved it was the huge world and the exploration you could do, like endless, right? So it's like a single player MMO almost. Xenoblade, it's similar in a sense, I'd say, but in what was I talking about again? Sorry.
The last story's battle system, my bad, is much more reminiscent of Xenoblade, my bad.
Oh, I see.
It just has some weird, like, gimmicks. Like, you can walk up... I don't know if you could do this in Xenoblade, but you can, like, walk up walls and, like, do all these weird... like in Dream... Wait, did you play Dream Drop Distance Blast?
No, I've not.
Oh, Dark was. Well, Dark did. So, you know how, like, you can do those weird, like, wall jump things?
Oh, Film Motion?
Yeah. It doesn't have that exactly, but it has stuff similar to that. But it's much more slow paced. I mean, just think about like if Dream Drop Distance Xenoblade had a baby, and that would be the last story.
It's actually interesting. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that game: the camera.
Oh, okay.
Just like literally the worst part about any of those like Wii RPGs from what I played are the cameras. Except I don't think Xenoblade had that problem, but I think
Yeah,
Pandora's
Xenoblade
Tower
was-
and it's part of the reason why I totally dislike Tales of Zestiria.
Oh, yeah, I heard the camera can get wonky in that one.
Oh God, just do me a favor and avoid that game at all costs.
That's the reason I couldn't finish Kingdom Hearts 1. Like, I'm super sensitive to bad camera. Like, I get nauseous quick, so I couldn't finish it because of the camera of that game.
Do
Although
you
I do
remember?
plan to give it retry it sometime.
Do you guys remember from Super Mario 64 TikTok clock at the stage? There was this one sequence where like you'd walk down the long hand on the clock, and the camera would be positioned one way. Yeah, and if you fell, you fell into water, and you had to redo the whole like.
I hated that so much.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Just imagine that with Tales of Zestiria and Kingdom Hearts 1. I mean, I don't know what was worse between the three. I'd probably argue Tales of Zestiria had the worst camera, and then Kingdom Hearts and Mario 64 in that snare were like toe-to-toe second place. But
I see.
if you really like Tales, play Zestiria. If not, I mean, avoid it like the plague.
Nah, I stopped playing Tales at Abyss, I think. I prefer that two-dimensional games over the 3D ones. However, I ordered a Vesperia like a few days ago off eBay. It should arrive in a month or so.
Ooh, let me know how that is, because like I said, sold my 360, and I really wanted to play that.
I ordered the PS3 version. I heard
Oh,
it's
you
better.
did the I should do that actually. I feel wow. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll do that right now. Better or worse, and let's
Yeah,
just
that's
hope.
an interesting point. I personally find like depressing settings and such to be comfortable in games. So yeah, that it's interesting that you say it's polarizing because
Oh, you're completely
views
right.
on that kind of
It's
different. That's interesting. I've never tried Berseria myself, so that's interesting to hear that about Berseria as well.
and that's why I said it was kind of a bad. I mean, it's kind of a bad example for me to use, or analogy rather, because Berseria plays off of Zestiria, which they have their own realm, their own world building, whatnot, and Berseria is a prequel to Zestiria in that sense. I know it may sound kind of complicated to some people that I'm saying Berseria is Zestiria, definitely has a tongue twister here and there, but the names themselves and the games themselves, unfortunately, have not been as good as they have been in the past. And this is coming from someone who's been a huge Tales fan and whatnot. And, I grew up playing Final Fantasy and Tales and the old Final Fantasies, 3, 4, 6, 5, 10 even 13. They were appealing to me, but same with Chrono Trigger. All the old Square Enix stuff, all the old Namco Bandai stuff, great. Some of the new stuff, I mean, I'm kind of drifting away from it, and I don't know if it's a factor of me getting old, or the companies themselves not really evolving. But when you see companies like Atlas and XC, Nihon Falcom, doing much better than these older, antiquated companies, it's kind of worrisome to me. But I do have hope that they'll play off of the I Am Setsuna being flat, improve on it, I guess.
Yeah, it'll also be interesting to see because from what I've heard, that there's going to be limited amount of physical copies, and the digital. So it'll be primarily digital game, and from what I've heard, the price point on that digital download is quite steep for a game of its kind. So it'll be kind of interesting to see where they go with that. Granted, I usually like to have physical copies of my games, with the exception of like games with gold on the Xbox or Steam, of course. But it'll definitely be a collector's item in the future, without a doubt.
That's interesting. I wasn't aware that it was going to be a digital only. I'm not sure how I feel about that because I'm in the same boat as you. As I really like physical copies of things, and if your system, stalls out, you're kind of, at a loss. I mean, you can't really get the game anymore if it's gone with the system, But I mean, nowadays systems have clouds store data on, so maybe the Switch will have something like that. I don't know. I'm not.
Well, that's the thing with Nintendo. They're sort of weird in that sense. Like Sony and Microsoft, if your console dies, you can just get all your stuff back through your account, right?
Yeah.
As far as I know, I don't know if they changed their policies with the Switch, which I hope they did. But like I have a 3D, like a Japanese 3DS and a Japanese Wii U, and I get all my stuff digitally pretty much because I don't like waiting for shipping. But with Nintendo, if I break my console, all the stuff I've purchased is gone. Like there's nothing I can do. They're not going to replace it with through an account or anything. So
Oh,
yeah, there's a
Nintendo.
risk there if it's people. Yeah, Nintendo's has been weird that way. They just think differently.
Not only do they think differently, but they just aren't. They're so. It's not. It's like they're antiquated, but they're not. Like they try all this new stuff, but they're still caught in the past. You know, like I don't understand it.
Yeah. Exactly. They just have their own ways of thinking that normal people can't comprehend, I guess.
Right.
Very weird. But I hope they change that.
No, me too. I mean, that's my biggest hope for the Switch. I mean, as a JRPG fan, I understand that most of the stuff probably won't show up on the Switch the way I want it to, but I'm hoping at least the system can make some noise so that JRPGs can go onto the Switch gradually. And from my hope from Lost Sphere is that exactly. I want that game to succeed, so eventually we'll see more and more JRPGs go on the Switch, and fans like us will be able to buy them, and actually have a purpose of getting a Switch. I mean, not just for Mario and Zelda,
Yeah.
Well, we do know that the next Shin Megami Tensei and Xenoblade 2 is gonna be on it someday, so
Oh my
those
god.
are system
Let's
sellers
not,
for
let's
me,
not
but
forget that
I guess.
to talk about a big splash in terms of JRPGs coming to the Switch, Dragon Quest XI has been confirmed for 3DS, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. So,
Oh my god.
let us
So, yeah.
discuss.
I'm sorry. I am so hyped for this game. Like, it looks so nice. It uses the Unreal Engine 4.
Exactly, Unreal Engine.
And I've been playing Tekken 7 lately because I just got it, and that uses the same engine. And man, it looks fantastic. And I have no doubt it'll look fantastic on the new system. Sans obviously the 3DS since it can't run that, but I mean, I'm telling you, this Unreal Engine 4 is the real deal. And
Wait,
this game,
Dragon Quest 11 is gonna run on Unreal?
yeah, it is. I saw it in
nice.
Silicon Era.
So the next Shin Megami Tensei is gonna be also running on Unreal 4.
I would hope so, yeah. But the thing with Shin Megami Tensei is like, I mean, Shin Megami Tensei 4 on the 3DS, it had some 3D sequences, but it's mainly known for the 2D fighting. Although, I mean, you look at Nocturne, it was 3D and it was on console, so we could see something more like that.
Yeah, so
Game. It's all 3D battling, like Persona and whatnot as well.
That's true.
We should probably talk about Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon because they just announced that early in the morning, I believe.
Yeah, the Pokemon Direct was early this morning, and they unveiled some of the new legendaries, and it's tying into the. I think isn't the Pokemon called Necrozma? I don't recall. It's basically like a Kyurem.
pretty much.
It's pretty much Kyurem V2. Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel. Like, it's cool with it coming out with, Ultra Sun and Ultra, Star. Like, personally, to be honest, I haven't finished Sun yet. It's still on my to-do list. But personally, I feel kind of underwhelmed. Not because I was expecting a Sinnoh remake like many other people, but mainly because I feel like they could have taken Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or maybe even a different property of theirs, and then used that for the Switch, or done something else. Because yes, they also said Gold and Silver will be on the 3DS Virtual Console with Pokemon Bank compatibility, but I feel like it would have been even better for them to have put it on the 3DS and Switch, especially since the Switch will supposedly be getting its Virtual Console in the near future. So I feel like that would have been a killer line up if they had Gold and Silver on there with Pokemon Bank compatibility.
That's a really great point. I didn't really think about that, but now that you mentioned the Virtual Console, if there's anything Nintendo does really well, it's that. I mean, they have a very nice Virtual Console now. For the longest time, I've been waiting for a GameCube Virtual Console, but I don't know how that's really going. I personally own a Wii U, and literally the only thing I've ever used it for was Virtual Console stuff.
Same here, man.
Yeah. I mean, as a JRPG fan, I probably should have purchased Tokyo Monsters.
X, and the rest is just Virtual Console.
Yeah, it really, though. Now, don't shoot me in the foot for this, but I wasn't the biggest fan of playing Xenoblade, the original one, when I I actually own it, and I still haven't even beaten it yet. Now, my opinion on it isn't really a good one because I didn't really put many hours into it. So, my point's probably moot here, but I couldn't resonate with the game when I first started, I guess. Now, I didn't give it a chance. So, of course, that's why I didn't get the, Xenoblade Chronicles X that was on the Wii U because, like I said, I haven't played the first one. Now, it is, to my knowledge, isn't the one that's coming out on the Switch actually a sequel to the original Xenoblade?
Possibly, it seems like it, but we don't know the story details at all, I guess. But it sure doesn't have any giant robots, so it seems to
Yeah.
be more in the line of the first one rather than X.
That would make a lot more sense, yeah. But like I said, haven't played the original, and I really need to. Now, as someone who plays hundreds of hours of Persona, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but the reason I haven't played Xenoblade is because it was hundreds of hours long, so I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of a hypocrite for saying that, but I mean...
No, it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
I have a few games I feel the same way as well, and have kept
Right.
off because of that. But when you get time, you should definitely dig into it, commit to it, because it's a pretty good game.
Yeah, that's what everyone's else saying, and for some reason, like my 2 years ago self was not having any of it. Don't know why, but
I feel
I'm
it.
definitely gonna. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna after I finish, my trails in the sky, and Trails of Cold Steel marathon. I'll eventually reach that point, and definitely try it.
Oh, I still need to get to my Trails games.
They're
Haven't.
fantastic. Look, they're gonna have as many tropes as you'll see in an anime. That's fine, but they do them right, and the story's nice. And not only that, but between the two games of Cold Steel and Trails in the Sky, the stories play to each other. So,
Yeah, I see.
I'd recommend
I played
doing.
a little bit of the first one, and other things have pulled me away, I guess. But I'm really meaning to go back to it. So
Yeah, I mean, if I were you, I would start with Trails in the Sky and then work your way to Cold Steel because if you want to go
looking for-
chronologically,
yeah.
of course.
that's
So-
how I plan to do it.
Interestingly enough, back to the Pokemon Direct, they kind of gave Pokken Tournament the Mario 8 Deluxe treatment with Pokken Tournament Deluxe. Personally, I only ever played the demo of it on the Wii U. I feel like I don't know, it's kind of interesting because obviously the Wii U wasn't that great, so not many people did play it that I knew. But I feel like they're giving it the chance it deserved with remaking it for the Switch. So kudos to them on doing that, trying to revitalize that franchise and adding in some new fighters like Scizor, Empoleon, and then that one Robin Hood-esque Pokemon from Sun and Moon.
Decidueye or whatever I
Yeah,
think
the
it's called.
Decidueye. I feel like they could have added a little bit more fighters, but I'm fine, with how many they have now. So it'll be interesting to see if people will be more willing now to play it if they have the Switch. Of course,
Right.
the problem with that is you actually need to find a place that offers the Switch to buy. But I feel
Yeah,
like
really though.
once enough people get the Switch, I feel like that'll be Nintendo's big fighting game until the possible Super Smash Bros. Entry.
Huh? I really.
actually,
Yeah.
I actually have the Wii U game. This is like one of the other games I got, and it was pretty fun while it lasted. Like, not many people really played it in the end.
I had fun on the demo, but not the whole point. To me, if I don't have anybody to play a fighting game with, then it's kind of
Exactly. Exactly.
From what I heard from all my friends who are into the Pokemon fighting, Pokken and whatnot. I mean, obviously it's made by the same people who did Tekken, but I heard there was one Pokemon in that game that just made the game like unbearably bad. Like it was super broken. And I don't know if you guys have. Jacob, I know you've played Smash, Melee and stuff. And hey, this isn't even a good example, but Fox was broken for so long that nobody would want to match up against him in Melee. And eventually they had so many different matchups and exploits. Falco came around. Marth, Pikachu, you name it. All these different characters. But Pokken really hasn't had that treatment yet, and it's a young game, so obviously no one's really figured it out. But I don't remember which Pokemon it is, but there's one that's like breaking the game, and I don't remember. It's the reason why a lot of people don't like it. Now, the main reason people don't like Pokken or haven't gotten the game, like you said, is because no one's gonna buy a Wii U. It's a dead system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Honestly, um, I bought the Wii U. Pretty much the only game I played in the Wii U, but the only game I actually like really played, to its fullest was Smash Brothers, and that's because I had my siblings get on with me, and I just like creamed them over and over with it. So I did originally buy it for the
Yeah.
Wind Waker HD bundle.
Oh,
Sadly,
that's what I did. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a great game, by the way. Love Wind Waker.
I never got too
And
far, unfortunately. But speaking of that, Wind Waker, Game Informer's top 100 RPG list.
oh boy,
Boy.
I feel like, okay, I'm just going to come out and say it. Skyrim, number one? No.
No.
I did have tons of fun, with that game. It made modding mainstream throughout the PC gaming community, but I still feel like there could have been a better pick for number one. What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
I don't agree either. Well, my main problem with Skyrim, as much as I enjoy the whole experience, is the combat is sort of crap to me. Like, I like to go melee in these kind of games. I think Magic is probably like more entertaining, but with melee you're just like slashing and there's no sense of impact at all, I find, compared to games like, Souls games or whatever, where every
Yeah,
hit feels like
because
something. These games just slashing and there isn't a feel of like, oh, you're actually slashing.
I have
So
just like
that sort of eventually put me off, but I still got like, what, 30, 40 hours before thinking.
yeah, I probably put in maybe like 300 hours. I'll have to go back and check because yeah, I definitely put in a lot of time into it. But can we just say I never I think Game Informer just sprinkled in like many entries in a JRPG series just to fill the list up.
All right, I'm gonna say this about this list. I get where they're coming from with Skyrim, but I completely disagree with. Like, I agree with you guys. Like, it shouldn't be number one, but I have the list right here. I'm looking at it right now. Kudos to them for actually including something like Dark Cloud. Like, I can't even believe that was included. Like, that's a JRPG that goes under the radar. And I know this is an RPG, so lists that they go over Western, but for our purposes, I mean, kudos to them. Now, here's what really ticks me off. They put Paper Mario here, 72, right? But the picture isn't from Paper Mario. It's from a different Paper Mario, which tells me that they were lazy. Now, I'm a huge Paper Mario fan, so that kind of ticked me off. And then here's another problem. Like, some games are way too low. Like, Tales of Symphonia is 89.
Yeah.
Tales of Symphonia is one of the... I'm not saying it's one of the best JRPGs or RPGs in general, but it's one that really got the RPG in the Western scene rolling. Because that game was on the GameCube at the Apex.
Tales. It made
Yeah.
Tales bigger in the West, I suppose.
Now, I think that, and look, Skies of Arcadia is ahead of that, and that's a great game. But like, I don't think that game had as big of an impact. I mean, obviously, this is an opinion. When you make a top 100 list, you have to have some sort of criteria. And like, when I see this list, I just see if someone's interest, like petty interests. Like, I don't see like impact. Like, there has to be a lot of things that make something a great game. Like how big of an impact it had. The story, the characters.
Yeah.
Tales is way too low. I'm just gonna say that right now. Like,
I will give them some slack because they did put Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, and Final Fantasy Tactics in the top 10, with Final Fantasy VI being number 2. Chrono Trigger definitely deserved top 3 spot for what it did for the genre and games moving forward, but I think World of Warcraft being number 6, I feel like that should have been placed in a separate category.
yeah, I mean it's an MMO. Like, that shouldn't be in this list. I mean, in Zelda Breath of the Wild, right? Really, this isn't really an RPG. I mean, you can say what you want about. I don't think Zelda's an RPG. People argue with me this all the time.
It is either. I don't think it is either.
Like, you get items. I understand. The only thing you really level up is your hearts and items, of course.
Find your hearts. You don't really add stats.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't really have stats. I mean,
Like,
the
killing
closest-
enemies directly doesn't give you any experience or rewards usually. So
Yeah, really. I mean, and going back to the Chrono Trigger point, I personally think Chrono Trigger should be number one, and here's my reason. If not for that game, and maybe you could argue Final Fantasy VI too, if not for these games, we really wouldn't have many JRPGs these days. And Final Fantasy VII is another one too. Although I'm not the biggest fan of that game, but save that for another point. But
personally,
not,
I would have put Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne as number one, but that's one of my problem with the list is there's no Shin Megami Tensei at all. There's Persona 4, but no Shin Megami Tensei, which leads me to believe about what Uso said earlier is that they just sort of sprinkled in what people think are famous games. Because look at the number of Final Fantasies in there, yet they don't have my favorite one, which is 12. But they have like a lot of the others.
I still have yet to play that game. I feel kind of bad about it.
That's fine.
The remake, yep, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Enhanced remake coming out.
Oh, what's up, Uso?
Oh,
Hey,
in
man.
addition to that, there's also 2 games on here, which, and on one of them, it definitely did have that impact. Fire Emblem Awakening. It saved the franchise, but friends of mine who are actually into the series have very low opinions of it as a game.
I'm
and
one
Mass
of those.
Effect 3, which not only is the third Mass Effect game on the list, it's also the one that had the most controversy to it. So I'm not sure if it's worth having on this list in addition to having 1 and 2 if it's supposed to be the objective worst of the trilogy.
That's a very good
Personally, I
point.
felt like Mass Effect 1 was the only RPG, and 2 and 3 were just third-person shooters. So I don't.
That's what I kind of thought, especially because they have Destiny on the list at 81. Like when I think of
Oh my
Destiny,
God.
I think of like MMO FPS. You level up, you upgrade equipment and stuff. But like the main point is kind of like pew pew and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
RPGs are about, going into a random battle or, and getting EXP and leveling up and, getting to choose a stat to upgrade and stuff. I mean, those games, you really don't do much of that. It's more action-y. I mean, you might upgrade weapons here and there. I mean, if that's the case, then Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance should be an RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, first
Or-
game actually had a lot of upgrading stats and everything. It felt like an RPG, science fiction, some third-person shooter hybrid. But from the second on, to me, it just felt like pure third-person shooter with
No.
what they claim to be RPG elements. But I didn't see it that way.
Let me just say this, too. There's no way in any way possible that Final Fantasy 1 is better than Final Fantasy 10. I'm sorry. No way.
I'd agree.
I mean,
Yeah.
Final
I like
Fantasy
that a
1,
lot.
how many people have even played that game?
I've played before.
Yeah, I've only played, a good amount on the PSP version. There's no way I can go back and play the NES version.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, this list, like, it has good things, but it has really, like, more so has many bad things. Like what Blas was saying earlier, there's no Shin Megami Tensei besides Persona, and that's like one of my favorite, franchises. And you can't even include Nocturne or, like 4 on there. I mean, come on now. Like,
Even
Yeah.
Digital Devil Saga is like amazing. The story.
the problem with Digital Devil Saga is it's so under the radar. Like nobody knows about it, but it's such
It
a
is.
good game.
Unfortunately, it is really good. It's up there, man.
I mean,
But
that ticks me off as a fan. Like I really wish I got more praise, but it just nobody knows of it, and I don't know how you'd like bring about people knowing about it. I mean, I know it's so old now.
it is on the PlayStation Network as a PS2 classic, both Nocturne and Digital Devil Sagas. If anyone has a PS3 lying around. Unfortunately, only in North America and Europe, I think, not in the Japanese store, which ticks me off personally.
That's really weird. I don't really understand that.
Yeah, you'd think that the Japanese PlayStation Store would have a lot of underappreciated JRPGs and JRPGs, but I don't know. I do have only 2 more little nitpicks. Well, one's not a nitpick. One's more like, oh, cool, we put it on. And then one other one's like, oh, I don't know, this should be on or not. I'm very happy that we did put the World Interview on the list.
I was just about to ask about
I
that.
just don't think it should be 95. I think it should be higher up.
Oh, definitely. That game's great. How they never made a sequel to that is beyond me. Like,
That game was amazing when I played it. That it still sticks to me to this day, and I was super happy when I saw Neku in Dream Drop Distance. So
oh yeah. That
now,
was awesome.
now
I
the
know,
only
right?
one,
Wait, Neku was in Dream Drop Distance?
yeah, he was
Yeah,
in Dream
dude.
Drop Distance.
Yeah, he was. He's like one of the main like people in that game.
Yeah, he was like your partner in the
Yeah.
first, yeah. So that was
I
pretty
know
cool.
that. I'm not big on the Kingdom Hearts stuff, so that's one reason to get for me to go back into it. Nice.
Let me just say this right now, though. I love Kingdom Hearts, but I don't. I think Dream Drop Distance may be one of my least favorite games for one reason, and one reason only. I cannot stand how they keep switching back and forth between characters. That was just obnoxious. But it was a great game. Besides that,
It
All right.
was, but yeah. So then the last one, number 70 in the list. I personally haven't played this game. You guys might be able to add more, but it's Undertale.
Oh yeah,
So
I've
I
not
know of
played it.
Undertale. I just never
Yeah.
played it myself. Isn't Undertale just that game where you have to make like a lot of guesses and like it's not really like an RPG. It's more so like you living like someone's life and just making decisions.
yeah, and like they also have a pacifist route, and then one like genocide route. So like one good ending per se, one bad ending per se. But I don't. As far as like the playthroughs I saw, yeah, there is kind of a bit of like like old Dragon Quest style battles, but like as far
Like
as like
Earthbound-ish visuals,
yeah,
I
like
guess.
Earthbound is visuals, but as far as that
Oh
goes,
yeah.
I don't really think like I don't know really why they put it on the list. Besides its status as a cult hit, So
No, you're right about that. And since we're talking about that, well, since we're talking about like RPGs too on this list, would we consider Castlevania an RPG? Because I love the series, but I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, I guess it is.
Symphony of the Night, I think I would consider it. Like, I
Yeah.
level up to beat bosses in that game. I try to find new gear, level up, and then try to beat bosses if it's hard, rather than use skills. I play
That's a
it
good
like
point.
an RPG, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I'd agree with that.
yeah, but speaking of RPGs and Final Fantasy, let's talk about some spin-offs.
Definitely. Yeah. I may not be the most well versed in this area, but from the few I've played, and I know we've talked. Oh, I know you guys previously were talking about Type Zero the other day.
Yeah,
I
that's one
have kind of played, but someone else talk about this because I kind of played a little bit of it, but I couldn't get into it much. Now I didn't really give it a chance. So
I didn't really like it.
Oh, I see. Oh, really? Which word
Yeah.
version did you? I guess you played the HD version, eh?
yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, I played it on Xbox One at a friend's house. I was like, I don't know, not. It just felt different, Like
This one game that somehow became like 100 times worse when it got ported to HD. Like, I don't know what went on, but I put a lot of hours into the PSP version, and it was really fun as a portable game. Basically, you had like what, a dozen or so characters, and each of them were like a weapon. Basically, they were different weapons.
oh,
So
nice.
using a character meant you were using that weapon, and leveling a character up was like leveling up that weapon. So it was just like have fun with weapons.
True.
And it had the classic Final Fantasy stuff of like the towns and overworlds and airship if you unlock them. And the music and the aesthetics was great for me. It was like World War II mixed with Final Fantasy or something. That's how I felt.
Yeah, the only like aspect I couldn't really wrap my head around was like, how is this like a rated M series? Because as far as I know, that's the only rated M Final Fantasy I've ever seen.
Oh, it's
So I
it's
just,
because they have
Wait,
like
really?
yeah, they have bleeding chocobos in like the first scene. That's why.
Oh
Like
wait,
the
you're
first-
right. They did have bleeding truck. What the
Yeah,
heck?
that was weird. I was like, why? Like, why would you, oppress
It's
this
like the
fucker?
World War II bit, I guess.
I
That's
guess.
why am I just realizing that? That's really weird. The heck?
I enjoyed the aesthetics, music, and the battle itself on the PSP, and then I tried the console version, and I couldn't play it for more than 30 minutes. Like I had to put it down. It was
Yeah, it was
a bad
kind of.
port. Weird,
Yeah, I got really bored
like
too.
motion blur and camera, and it just didn't click.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
So,
to try
yeah,
the
here's my-
PSP version.
Yeah, I never knew there was a PSP version, so I'll
It
definitely
was
look into
originally a
that.
PSP game that was just sort of upscaled to be a HD game, but I believe the PSP game has a translation patch out there,
Ooh,
so
awesome.
you guys should go at it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but
And
oh, you can go
while we're on
ahead.
the record for Final Fantasy spinoffs, can I call Final Fantasy X-2 a spinoff, please? Because that game was awful.
You know what?
Only if
I'd
we get to
agree to
talk
that.
about okay. Only if we get to talk about like for intermission, whatever it was, interlude,
Oh,
and the actual years too.
The
I
four
never played
sequels,
those.
basically.
Yeah, I've only ever played like the base, Final Fantasy IV, so I can't say much about
Yeah, same
interlude
here.
or after years or stuff like that. Uh,
Oh, I love the base Final Fantasy IV, and I have not touched the after years at all. I've only sort of heard bad things about them, so I haven't bothered. But I
Yeah,
love
really.
of the two-dimensional Final Fantasy games, 4 is my favorite. Absolutely.
Yep, same here. I love 4. It's such and obviously no spoilers, but the whenever like you figure out the specific thing in the game, like the call it the I guess the plot twist is what I meant to say. But whenever the plot twist happens, it's so like crazy.
Which one? Because Final Fantasy IV is just a series of plot.
True. I guess one more towards the end. I don't want to mention it though, because I know some people haven't played it. We'll talk about it afterwards.
yeah, but one spin-off series that I could definitely attest to and talk with a fair amount of certainty would be the Crystal Chronicle games.
Man, those games are like really fun looking. I just haven't gotten a chance to look at play many of them. But wasn't there one on the GameCube? Was that the original one?
There's one on the GameCube that I played, but actually, like my first introduction were the ones on the DS, and so I played those and I beat them. And I had a lot of fun with it. The characters and their races were pretty cool. I always chose the selfies because they can double jump, and so that was always kind of cool. And then playing online on the DS version was always so much fun because I'd be paired up with super high level people, and they would just give me all their like Valkyrie gear. So I'd be like, sweet, and then I'd go on, beat the game, and then I played for one on the GameCube afterwards, and it was pretty different, I'd say, because yeah, there was like co-op available, but I just played it single player, and so like, I was like playing it. It's like, oh hey, you don't level up, but like, it was more like a Legend of Zelda esque because you can upgrade your hearts and like other stats.
Oh
But,
yeah, you're right.
yeah, but after a while, I got used to it, and it's still very enjoyable.
I'm gonna have to try that out. And I mean, I still have my Wii and everything. I mean, I don't know how hard it'd be to find a copy. I mean, I guess I always could dolphin stuff, but I always like
Yeah.
owning stuff.
Yeah,
And then,
I'm interested in trying that too, the GameCube one.
Give it a shot. It does have one pretty unavoidable flaw, and that's because when it was made out, Nintendo was still trying to push the GBA and GameCube link cable nonsense, which means
I remember that.
Oh
even
God.
though the game it looks like it'd be really fun to play with people because it's like 4-player multiplayer RPG with these like big old levels and beat 'em up mechanics and all that stuff. But you need 4 of those link cables. You need 4 GBAs for 4
yeah.
people multiplayer, which
So
really
I was looking at the
Ugh.
back cover of the GameCube version. I was like, and a Game Boy ring, cause like, oh, I remember that. And then I saw like 4 there. I was like, oh, are they trying to go like 4 swords on this? But I was like, but of course, I never did it, cause I do have Game Boys at home, but I don't have the ring cables. But the other one on the Wii, Ring Bearers was interesting. I know many didn't really like it, but I thought it was pretty cool just because of the telekinesis.
Wait, what do you mean? What about the telekinesis? Sorry.
Like just the fact that you can like lift up enemies and kind of like play around with like parts of the environment, that kind of like blew my mind.
Oh, that's cool.
So, other than that, the Feed Rhythm games were surprising to me because I'm somebody that does not like rhythm games
Same
or like,
here.
musical
Yeah.
style, but Feed Rhythm was actually like fun to play because I remember seeing it at the Target kiosk. I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. I'm waiting here anyways. and so playing it was like pretty fun. So I'll give that one an exception.
Yeah, I like that a lot too, more than I thought. It helps that a lot of the themes are so good.
Yeah.
And they put in like some other franchise like Saga and like spin-off stuff themed to via DLC that were really good as well. It introduced me to a bunch of themes I didn't even know, so that was good. Yeah.
So
Um
sorry, you can go.
yeah, go on.
Wait, I have something to say actually.
Yeah, go on.
Here's another spinoff that I'm not sure you guys have played, and I did mention it at the dark, but have you guys played Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles: My Life as a King?
No.
No, I've only heard about it.
All
I
right,
have not.
that game, it sounds so stupid. Like all you do, like I'm trying to think. You know, like The Sims, you'd build houses, or like Sim City and stuff like that. You'd build like a city. You basically do that, and it's an RPG in the sense that you like have units and you send them out to fight, and they'll come back. You know, they level up, and you keep doing that over and over. And you do it for the longest time, but you're basically like this king. Make your own city, and you accrue like money through sending out units to go fight battles. They come back, level up, and you just keep repeating the process over and over and over. And it actually has a story, which actually is pretty good. My only problem with the game is it looked really like the art style is not like on par with what a Final Fantasy game usually is. I know it's Crystal Chronicles, but like even some of the older Crystal Chronicle games on like GameCube look better than this game. So definitely a low budget game, but it was pretty fun. And if you're ever looking for a game to just waste away hours on, I mean, pretty fun game.
Yeah.
Cool.
It definitely caught my interest. I never got to play, but I did see like I did watch some people play it. So it does look like a lot of fun. But before, I know Kingdom Hearts could be considered a Final Fantasy spin-off, but I feel like that kind of deserves its whole like separate episode given the nature of the series. So I'm just
Probably.
saying it, yeah.
Oh, you're completely right. I mean, there's so much depth in that series, and the story is just so like all over the place at times. But that definitely deserves its own episode. I mean, there's so many entries to that series. I mean, we could talk about that for days.
Yeah, me, same here. So, let's see. Oh, I never got a chance to play this FF spinoff, but did you guys ever play the Chocobo Dungeon games?
Oh
Yep.
yeah, I've put quite a bit of hours into the first PlayStation game, I think. It was the first Mysterious Dungeon game I played. It was really fun.
Wait,
I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I played it.
is that the
And
same
it's
one that's
fun.
on the Wii? Because I played one that was on the Wii.
Way newer. There's like a DS and Wii
Huh.
modern ones, but originally they had it on PlayStation.
Right.
Quite addictive. Quite addictive.
Yeah, it was really addictive, and I don't know if you ever played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. That's how I got into this
Yeah, that's how I
dungeon
got.
stuff.
That's how I like
Mhm.
found it because I played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool concept, and it's like, oh, hey, Chocobos, and then I saw that my friend had it, so I just watched my friend play it, and we had quite a bit of fun doing that.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, I
It
know
has a
the
job system, right? The Wii one?
has a what now? I'm sorry.
The Wii one does have a job
Oh,
system.
yep, it does have a job system. That's what made it like really fun. Like you could just experiment with pretty much everything.
The DS one was like the port of a Wii one, I believe. It was pretty good with the job system and all that. I played that too. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
if there's anything Square Enix can do, it is job system. As you can
Well,
see
there was
from
also one thing that was very good about that Wii game. The remixes.
oh my god, I forgot how good the music was in that game. Yes, it was fantastic. I mean, some of the best Final Fantasy music I've ever listened to, honestly, and that's not even hyperbole. Like, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I urge everyone to check out, what was it, a Dungeon Hero X's thing? It's a really
Yeah.
nice remix of Man with a Machine Gun. Another song.
Yep. I know
I'm
exactly what you're
looking
talking
into
about.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give him a listen.
And, I mean, y'all know how good Man with a Machine Gun is. Like, when they remixed that, I was playing the game. I was like, wait, is this Man with a Machine Gun? Like, it was super. They do great jobs with the remixes in the spin-off games, but that was one of the best ones. I
And they
definitely
don't
urge you to
always
listen to.
use- And they don't always take like the obvious choices. Like sometimes they use the hunting theme from Final Fantasy IX, not as like a battle theme or anything, just as the background music for the first dungeon of the game.
Really?
And Dungeon
Oh,
Hero
that's dope.
X, that's just a random, well, not a random character, but that's just the theme to an NPC. So even if they're using battle themes and town themes, they'll always be using them in interesting ways you wouldn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Another thing about that game that's very surprising, it's really hard.
Yeah,
It's-
I mean, I remember like having difficulty in the first hour, and I was like, "What's going on here?"
Oh yeah, the mysterious dungeon games can be brutal at first. But once you figure out and know the system, they can be so addicting. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, so much stuff you could do with the class system, and like,
Kieran's Mysterious Dungeon, which is like the company's original, their own like Mysterious Dungeon game. And when I first got it for Vita, I think like 1 week passed without me knowing. It was that addictive, like, holy crap.
no,
And then the
that's how you know a
tutorials
game's
were
good.
fast, so, yeah.
But one thing I can say, it's like at least Pokemon Mystery Dungeon sort of eases you into like the idea of traps and all that.
Yeah, it does.
Oh
Chocobo's
my-
dungeon,
Yeah,
first dungeon in.
it is ruthless, man. I mean, some of the traps that you can get involved with in that game, like, it's insane. I raged so many times playing Chocobo's Dungeon. I actually never beat the game, so I kind of feel bad about it. But like, it was super difficult compared to Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
Not to mention things like one-hit KO dungeons. Of course,
Oh
those
god.
are also fun because the one-hit KO also applies to your enemies. So
Yeah. So you can basically
every attack you-
you can
every
destroy
attack you-
them, but they can destroy you too.
Dante Must Die
and,
mode or
when you get
something.
that speed diva. Basically.
Oh yeah.
So the best spin-off, I believe, is Final Fantasy Tactics.
All right. I haven't played
Uh,
that game, so I'm.
I disagree.
Do you?
I do. The best Final Fantasy spin-off is obviously Final Fantasy Unlimited.
Oh, listen. No way.
No. Actually, the best
You didn't go
spin-off
there.
is Final Fantasy All the Bravest.
Oh boy.
Seriously though, talking about the job system and whatnot, like they need more games with job system, like tactics and FF5 and whatnot. It makes it so good,
Yeah,
I guess
job
Bravely
system was fun.
Default used it.
I got a good laugh because someone on the JRPG subreddit made a thread about or made a post about how and you need a PhD to play tactics.
I saw
I
that
don't
one
know.
too. That was
Yeah.
pretty, that was a good post.
That was a really good post. Yeah. I wish I wish I had gold to give that guy, but like that was
Oh man,
that was an
Tactics
excellent
is-
post.
see, outside of the numbered ones, for sure, I love it. The soundtrack, the atmosphere, the story characters, the main character, everything.
Yeah, the opening sequence is like still fresh in my mind, where the guy gets away and he like, comes down. He's like, "Blame yourself or God." I was like, "Whoa!" Like this guy is a savage. I was like, "This guy is unbelievable." I was like, "What?" So, but the job system was a lot of fun. I enjoyed like all the different combinations you can have.
It's fun finding out like your own overpowered combinations. Like you can get pretty creative with the stuff.
Yeah, but man, can you imagine if they made like a brand new entry? Like we just Square Enix comes out at E3, it's like, hey, Final Fantasy Tactics, and then everybody just goes nuts.
I would go
Really?
nuts.
How many of
I'd
those
go
games are there,
far.
anyways?
There's Tactics, Tactics Advance, and 8-2 for DS.
Yeah, I played A2, I got pretty far into it, but I was much younger at the time, so I didn't really understand like the dynamics, of like tactics, and so I was just like, oh, random guys here and there, da 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 da.
The advanced
So-
games have a problem with the law system. It can get pretty annoying. Like it would make it unplayable sometimes. They would give you some weird laws. You just couldn't attack with this kind of stuff or attack with this kind of unit. you couldn't bump enemies off the wall or stuff like that. And you,
Wait, what does that remind me of? There's another game that does that, like that spams out of the wazoo. I'm trying to think which game does that. Like the law, like they have their own like law system, and if you don't like do a specific thing, you'll miss out on like specific points. I'm trying to think what it
I
is.
know what you're talking about.
Uh, what's up?
Disgaea or Tactic Ogre?
I don't know if it's either of those, but this guy is probably what I was thinking of. I mean, it's probably another good example, but it wasn't what I was thinking of.
I could never get into this guy for some reason.
I think because like people see like, oh, you're doing like 100,000 damage, and it's like, what is this? There's too much numbers
Yeah,
and
like the max levels can get pretty
Crazy.
yeah, but not as and not as crazy as I've seen. I think it's actually pretty tame compared to like some others, but you know that's just me. Like,
It's just the
I never had a problem.
overwhelming options of like the number of things you can do. But from what I hear, the best way to play those games is to just like stick to the main characters and blow through the story with that first without going into the other depth and the branches of system mechanics you can go into.
Hmm.
That's what I heard. But yeah,
So,
Cydia, you guys play that or?
I play a little bit. So.
I had the emulated. I had one of the PSP ones on my phone, so I played a little bit of that. And then when I got a new phone, everything wiped. So, but I do plan on coming back to the series and playing it. I did enjoy it, so yeah, I definitely have an episode in the works for it eventually. So you guys will just have to stay tuned for that.
Oh, cool.
wait though, are we? I zoned out for a second. Are we still talking about tactics?
I was asking about Dissidia.
Oh, Dissidia. Okay. In that case, yeah, Dissidia is a great game.
Oh yeah, the city was a lot of fun. I misheard you. I thought you said Diskia, but yeah, the city was a lot of fun. Of course, since it was a fighting game I owned, I had nobody to play with. So after story mode, I was just kind of like, oh, alright. But I did have a lot of fun playing that game. Apparently, there's a mobile version in the like Japanese app stores. I don't know how that is because I'm in America, but I would love to try it out sometime and see how it works out.
I seem to remember like Namco Bandai making a Tales game like based off of Dissidia or like the same thing. I'm trying to think like if that was a thing or not.
They might have. Like, they've had a bunch of PSP games. Like, spin-off Tales-ish.
Yeah.
Could be one of them. But I forget. But there's an arcade Dissidia, too. It runs on the PS4 hardware. But it hasn't
really?
been ported yet.
Ooh.
Like,
I never
I'm
knew
really
that.
hoping that will come to us someday.
That's
It
interesting.
has the Final Fantasy Tactics main character playable, so I'm
Oh,
dying to try it
nice.
out. But yeah, I'm not in Japan either, so
Yeah, so the only thing we can do is just buy the actual cabinet and then have Blast come over and translate everything for us.
I'm really hoping it'll come to PS4 though. It runs on the same hardware. There's no reason they shouldn't port it. People would buy it, man. Even if it's a trash game, people would dish out their money for it.
Now, so to pivot back to the news and stuff, we were talking about Dragon Quest 11. I mean, that hasn't been announced in the US yet, right?
Was that pardon?
What's up?
I'm pretty sure it was announced in the U.S. Dragon Quest XI.
It might have been, but
no.
I don't think it ever. I don't recall it ever getting a release date or anything like that, though.
I
Or,
think
let me see.
I'm sure Nintendo will either put out a direct treehouse or just plainly say it at E3. So I'm curious to see because I also heard recently this morning that they'll have like a treehouse for the 3DS games and a direct for Switch games, or maybe it's swapped, and then so that kind of leaves me curious to see what they'll come out and say at E3. I did read about that Nintendo did say something about a Fire Emblem for the Switch.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yeah, that's.
Oh yeah, they did. They did. Hmm.
And they said like it's gonna be nothing like the 3DS games. They said that, and they said it's gonna be like the most beautiful game like graphically they've made from Fire Emblem. Obviously though, because it's gonna be on the Switch, but
Yeah.
shouldn't be news.
They
But
said it might end completely different. So
I am
Yeah,
very
exactly.
ecstatic about
Completely
hearing that.
different is what they said.
I want them to make something like Path of Radiance. Now, I don't know if you guys ever played that game.
I saw a playthrough of it. I do plan on dolphining that game because it does look really.
That's a
amazing.
rare game though.
It is a rare game. It's like $80 at the shop by me, and GameStop is selling it for like an obscene price, of course, online. So
But I definitely recommend playing that. And I will say that like, if there's any Fire Emblem game that really has a great story and characters, it's Path of Radiance. Now, unfortunately, its sequel not so much. The sequel
Yeah,
has like
It's
one
funny
of the best.
because everyone recommended me Path of Radiance when I was like, I don't have any experience in Fire Emblem. Which one should I play first? Everyone in the JRPG subreddit Discord was like, Path of Radiance is the way to go. So I plan to play that via Dolphin as well.
yeah, mine was a little bit different because at the time I did have like some slight knowledge of Fire Emblem, but I was actually playing the Fire Emblem Heroes mobile game, and so when at the height of its popularity, at the Fire Emblem Heroes subreddit, somebody asked, "Oh, like where to start the main entries?" And somebody was like, "Oh, play Burning Blade, or like definitely number 6 for the GBA." And so I was like, "Oh, all right." So I downloaded the ROM for it, and I got through the One Girl Story wins, and so it's definitely been a lot of fun. I'll probably just go through them in chronological order because that's, I don't know. Usually I'm not too big on like set orders, but for certain things, I think it'd be better to like, go in order.
Oh, chronologically for Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Only problem with that is you'll come run through a roadblock here and there, but it's a good idea in theory. It's just my recommendation. I mean, you could do that, and Path of Radiance certainly wasn't my first Fire Emblem game. I think my first was Fire Emblem 8, Sacred Stones, I believe it is, and which that game actually was probably the most difficult for me. Although everyone says it's like one of the easiest ones, so I don't know what the deal with that is, but I definitely recommend playing Path of Radiance. Now, do be wary of Radiant Dawn, its sequel on the Wii. It's still a good game, but it really has nothing on Path of Radiance. The only thing about Radiant Dawn is I think it's the only game that has like, or maybe it was the first game that had like 3 class systems, so you could evolve 2 times basically.
Oh,
But yeah, I don't. Maybe the newer games have that. I don't remember. And to be completely honest with you, I'm not a big fan of Fates. And Awakening was okay. They went away from what like Fire Emblem really is. Like they kind of went so anime-ish, and I love anime. Like don't get me wrong, but they took away so much of the stuff that made Fire Emblem like a great series. Kind of just like hammered down like all these tropes and useless characters that don't really mean much. I mean, there's cool characters here and there, but I mean, Chrome and the other guy, Robin, are not nearly as interesting as Lynn and Ike.
Yeah, but remaining on the topic of E3,
Can I mention one more Final Fantasy spin-off we haven't really covered?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, World of Final Fantasy.
Oh.
Speaking of which, someone made a subreddit post about getting that or Persona 5, which I chuckled at, but I mean...
Well, Persona 5 is the answer for that one.
Yeah,
However, I got that game initially because I saw Xenogears. From Xenogears was in it as a cameo. And then Einhander, I don't know if you guys heard of it. It's like a old shoot 'em up S1. That robot was in the game too. But anyway, I bought it for those reasons and to fill time before Final Fantasy 15 came out. And it ended up being a really, really good experience. It just uses the classic ATB system.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a Pokemon-like Mons game, You collect all the different Final Fantasy monsters. You can make teams with them and then go at it. And it's really enjoyable, like all the way. If you're into monster games and if you like Final Fantasy, like mythology, all the different monsters and whatnot that show up in all the games, and you want to use them to fight with you, then this is a good game for you, definitely.
Well, dude, that sounds exactly like Dragon Quest Monsters Joker. I'm going to have to try that out.
And it is. I love Dragon Quest Monsters too. I love all the monster games.
Oh
so,
my
yeah,
god.
That's what the subgenre I specialize in.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that to me.
It's really good, man. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, for a second, I
what?
thought you were going to talk about Final Fantasy Explorers, and I was like, but luckily, it wasn't. So I played with
Wait,
them. I played
what
with them.
system is sorry, what system is World Final Fantasy on? Is that on PS4?
It's on PS4 and Vita. I'd recommend Vita just because it's a monster raising RPG. It also
Yeah,
does have
portable
multiplayer.
thing.
I
If you
got a
need one of the
PS4
2,000.
version myself. It was enjoyable, even as like a console RPG. The dungeons were all pretty. It had really nice visuals all the way. Like I know it gets flack for having these like chibi characters, but they make fun of it in the game as a joke, and you can switch back and forth between. And it also plays into the system of the mechanics where if you're in a chibi form, you can stack like
Oh,
bigger monsters
that was
below
so
you, while
cool.
if you're can only stack smaller monsters above you and stuff like that. So it plays into mechanics. So it's a good game.
That sounds really fun.
It really is. And if you like raising monsters, like Final Fantasy monsters, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
I did kind of not completely enjoy the story and the focus on humor.
Yeah, the story. I like the focus on humor. Story wasn't anything too serious to take about, but again, it was like aimed at a younger audience, perhaps. So I think it was all right.
Tends to be the case for the Mon games, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you can skip the cutscenes. Till we get.
So yeah, E3.
All right.
So, Chrono
Oh,
Break.
we forgot one Final Fantasy spinoff. One,
Oh boy.
the one that everybody loves.
Wait,
Nobody
though.
has ever had a negative opinion about Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
Drum roll, please. Hey,
Mystic Quest.
Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. That's a really, really good one. I totally forgot that existed. I actually really like that game.
The battle theme is amazing. I'll give you that.
It really is. I mean, that game is as antiquated of an RPG as you can get. I mean, I think that's actually a pretty important RPG. Was that on the top 100 list? I don't remember, but maybe it shouldn't have. But I think it's pretty important, though. I mean, you can say what you want about it, but I think that's an important RPG entry into the JRPG series. Because if not for that, I mean, a lot of people from that time probably would have known much about RPGs. But like, it's probably not the best game, obviously. But
Yeah, what's really interesting about that one is not so much the game, but like the context, like the historical context, and like game history.
Yeah.
Because like Japan, I don't know, the actual story is kind of like still a little bit fuzzy to me. So if I'm wrong, please don't hesitate to correct me. But like, pretty much, Japan was like, oh, we made this easy RPG for you guys, and so they gave us like Mystic Quest, and so that's kind of how it went, from what I understood about the whole ordeal.
Hello?
Oh,
Voice seemed to have cut off, or
I have a silence, but yeah, from what I
Well,
heard,
that game, they tried to pull off that as the name of Final Fantasy in Europe, because they also named the Final Fantasy Adventure, otherwise known as Second Densetsu 2, or the first Mana game. They also named that Mystic Quest.
oh, okay, that's right.
But yeah, it's ridiculously simple. It's even more simple than the first Final Fantasy game. That's sort of saying a lot.
Yeah,
But it is fun.
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a simple RPG, but I had a lot of fun with it. So, one thing I do look forward to, if it happens or not at E3, is I heard talks about a Chrono Trigger for the Switch.
oh, Chrono Break.
Yeah, Chrono Break.
Like you and I were talking about the other day, which I'm not really sure. I mean, I feel really like dumb for not knowing if this is the case, but is that supposed to be Lost Sphere? Because I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Chrono Break. Is this something they trademarked a long time ago?
Yeah, 2001 to be exact.
Huh.
And like it's resurfacing, and like someone posted some Nintendo Power Link and JRPG subreddit, and it definitely seemed kind of troll because me and Dark were talking about it, and I was like, I don't know if this is real, because I thought Nintendo Power wasn't a thing anymore. But it says from April 8th,
Yeah.
2017, so I don't know.
I wouldn't. Yes.
I'll put that. I'll categorize that under questionable. We'll just have
Questionable.
we'll just have to see at E3 to see if anything ever does come of it. But what do you guys hope? So it may not happen, probably never will happen. But what do you guys want to see from E3 or down the road at a Tokyo Game Show?
I want to see, and this could easily happen at E3 because it's a Nintendo IP. Or actually, Nintendo doesn't. My bad. Nintendo's a thing. They don't go to E3, so maybe this is a terrible example. Now I just feel really bad about this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I want to see a new Paper Mario on the Switch that goes back to its roots with the first two games. And I know Nintendo doesn't participate in E3 anymore, but I'm gonna consider this E3 because they do the Nintendo Treehouse and stuff right around that time. But I want to see.
Don't they do a Nintendo Direct like during E3's time slot or something?
Yeah,
I remember they
so
did that once, so you could consider that their E3.
Yeah, because yeah, okay. I guess for the sake of this podcast, yeah, we'll call it E3. But yeah, so I don't know if you guys have ever played, Mario RPGs. I know a lot of people just, shrug when they hear that because it's not really an RPG, it's Mario. But I mean, Super Mario RPG and the two first Paper Marios, even Paper Mario on the Wii, Super Paper Mario, some of my favorite games. But just the last two
I
games
love
have been
Super
awful.
Mario RPG. I love the first Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
I love I didn't have it myself, but I used to go to a friend's place just to play it, and I played a good chunk right at my friend's place. It was really.
Yeah, it's a really fun game. I mean, the story, you don't really take it seriously. Great writing, a lot of humorous writing. As you expect from a Mario RPG.
Even the atmosphere.
But a great battle system. Yeah.
Even the atmosphere of some of the areas were and dark. Some places it was nice.
And we'll never get anything like that again because that was a crossover between Square and Nintendo at the time.
Yeah.
It's obviously not going to happen again. But a man can dream, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a man can dream of more Kingdom Hearts 3 news at E3.
Please, I need to see more. And this game is never going to come out, but I want to see more. From what I've seen, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I hope
everything about it.
I hope at the very least they'll give us some new footage. At the best, maybe like more revealing details, like this world is going to be in here, or like other like little details about the game. I did read a couple of articles that Kingdom Hearts 3 and the Final Fantasy VII remake, and one other game, were set to come out within the next 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, but I heard that wasn't
the
case.
3 years means like 20 years now. I mean, ever since the whole Final Fantasy versus debacle.
Yeah.
And 7 is just the first episode that's coming out within 3 years. And there's going to be many episodes after that, and God knows how long that'll take.
Oh.
And I wonder how much they're going to be charging for these games, because, obviously it's only, part of the story, so, I mean, is it going to be $60? Is it going to be $20? I mean...
Speaking of episodic, I heard this from a friend, so I didn't have the chance to verify this yet, but I did hear that the more, and Square Enix were either, so Kingdom Hearts 3, maybe, but definitely in the future, they want to take the more episodic approach, and I don't think that's a good direction to go. Because I know one other JRPG series has started to go on the episodic route. I know somebody posted it in the JRPG Discord, but I feel like given what happened to Hitman, I don't think it's a good place to go.
That's a fair point.
I don't really like episodic stuff myself. Like, I experienced that first with Xenosaga. They sort of pulled it okay. The first game was alright. The second game I felt was a wreck. And the final game was pretty good. But they were supposed to originally have that be like a 6-episode thing or something. But they could only do 3. because how many games can you make within a system's lifespan? That's why I'm worried with 7's remake. Like they're saying 3 is gonna come out. I mean, it's gonna come out within 3 years, and that's gonna be the first episode, and then by then the hardware and stuff could have be evolved. We could be having a next console by the time the second episode comes out.
Yeah.
How are like the save files and all that gonna link?
I
That's
even-
another thing.
I even heard the first episode will be like might even be like pushed for the PlayStation 5, quote unquote. So we'll just have to like wait and see on that. But I generally think, granted, for Kingdom Hearts, the fans will still most likely buy it, and only worst case scenario if it's like complete garbage, or they just outright disapprove, they won't buy it. Final Fantasy the remake might be a different story because from what I've heard, because they're changing some core aspects like the battle system and all that it's towards like a newer generation. So it will be interesting to see. Because I also heard that there were rumors of another Final Fantasy remake, either 8 or 9, that were to be developing after Zodiac Age comes out.
Now the
Interesting.
question is, which of the two between 8 or 9 needs the remake more? Personally, I would say 8, and not just because it's older, but just because the way the game is. I think 9
Yeah.
is perfect the way it is.
9 has. I feel like both are still pretty playable today. So I don't know how I feel about remaking either. If they were to remake one, I'd pick 9 because I prefer 9. But I see what you mean by 8 deserving a remake because of its system,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
how the mechanics and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, 9 is a better game, but like, if I were to remake the game, obviously, like I think 9 would be more of my own personal opinion, like what you're saying. But if I'm going objectively, like I think 8 needs more touching up on. But even though, like you're right, both games are easily playable. I mean, it's not like 7 where they looked like a mess like
Blocky
years later.
characters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
talk about blocky character. Yeah.
Personally, I feel like instead of like 7 or 8, I would have actually gone like further back into the series, like
6 maybe.
like 6. Yeah, definitely. I would like to see like what they would do with 6. I mean, to see Kefka remastered in like HD. Oh man,
That'd be sick.
that'd be glorious.
That would be sick, and like a remastered soundtrack and all that too.
Yeah, that or 4, like seeing like Cecil and his journey and all that. That would
Oh
be
man,
dope.
Oh,
4 is my favorite game. So like,
Me too.
I would. Oh man,
And-
I'm thinking about that.
they haven't messed up. Like 4 on PSP looks gorgeous, while
Oh really though? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
what's on the mobile looks so bad. Like 6
Awful.
port with those sprites. I don't know what they were thinking on doing, but
Mobile gaming too. I'm not a fan, but I don't understand like the whole point of your phone battery isn't gonna last you that long, from my experience. What's the
yeah,
point?
and I need buttons. Like I need to press my
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like,
control.
And it's the
It's
same reason.
impossible.
It's the same reason why I go for physical books versus digital copies, because I need like the feeling of having the book and like turning the page. This is like more natural, like it's there.
yeah, no, I'm the same way. Like, I'm not like whenever I read stuff way back when I read like a Stephen King book like a couple of years ago. It was pretty good. I read it on ebook, but it just didn't like. It wasn't. It was really weird. If the book wasn't good, I wouldn't. No way I would have read that because ebooks just feel kind of awkward to me. Harder
Yeah.
to read for some reason. Like flipping the page has its own like distinct feel.
We've even said that, like the action of like turning the page helps you retain the information more from what you're reading. But yeah, like the only time or place I can tolerate a digital book is when I have to get like a digital textbook for like one of my college courses. But that's
Oh, mhm.
Oh yeah, that's a different thing. That's to save money and stuff, right?
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if you're lucky enough, you'll find a PDF online.
yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I've been doing the last 2 semesters. And I don't even feel bad about it because college textbooks are way too expensive.
I know, but like it's so hard. Like they know how to counter that because
Yeah.
all my books they need like an online access code for the course, and so the only way want to get
damn.
it, the only way you can get it is if you buy it brand new, and
that
here's this
sucks.
physical textbook with it.
That
or
is
the digital.
so nonsense. I hate that. I've dealt with that in the past, but I've kind of gone past those classes. So like I have buddies from years ahead that'll give me like old PDFs.
Yeah,
Oh,
same
nice.
here. Like I was
Yeah.
lucky with that too.
Yeah, but like when you have those access codes, and sometimes like those will also link to like homework things online. It's just a pain in the butt.
So this isn't JRPG related, but what I'm looking forward to from E3 is Death Stranding. You know, Hideo Kojima's new game. He's working with Sony.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
hoping,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
more footage of that on E3.
I can't wait to see what E3 will hold for us, especially given like some of the more recent announcements with games like Far Cry 5 and so on. So definitely, I can't wait to watch. One day, I will make the trip there, but until then, I'll just happily sit on my couch and watch it on my phone or laptop or whatever.
I just
Hopefully
want.
they will release the release date for Dragon Quest 11 in North America.
Oh,
Oh,
Because it's
really
coming
though,
out
yeah.
really soon in Japan, like in
Isn't it
a
like
month.
June 20 something or July 20
Yeah.
something? Yeah. Let me see
So
right
it's
here.
very soon. I
Oh,
think.
it's July 29th on the PS4 and 3DS, and then Switch
Yeah.
hasn't been announced.
hey, that's my birthday.
Really?
So
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Hey.
awesome. Hey.
You gotta get yourself a Japanese copy, my friend.
Yeah, I gotta buy myself a PS4. That's what's up.
Oh,
well, I'm
jeez.
totally importing it like midnight.
Are you really?
Digital. Yeah,
Nice.
definitely.
You gotta
I'm
let us know.
quite
You
into
gotta let us know
Dragon
how
Quest.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll post like first-hand impressions or
Awesome.
talk about it on the podcast.
I'll definitely bring you on for that when the time comes. But I think we
It would
did
be a
some.
perfect time for them to announce the North American release date since the Japanese is so close.
Yeah, I definitely.
God, that game looks so good. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
I
like,
already love like cartoon like style stuff, and that just like it's so nice looking.
yeah, like especially like with all the news that came out of it, like the mount system, and, like,
Yeah.
stuff like this. Oh man, like because the first I played like 5 when I was younger, but like the first one I actually like sat through and beat and like really dug like hours into was 9, and so I cannot like wait to like have
Dude,
that
9 is so.
experience.
That is by far my favorite class system in any JRPG.
That was like like so good. I bought 2 copies of that game. Actually, no, sorry. My friend gave me his copy, and I ended up playing it again on his just
That still
because.
counts.
And then I'd always set my birthday in the DS. Set my birthday like to the actual day, and so I'd go in into like the little inn, and then all the people from like past entries of Dragon Quest would give me like some of their like wardrobe, and so I'd be like so happy. I'm like, yes.
Dude, that is such a great game. Like between that and 8, and actually, I recently beat 7, which it was an
You
okay
actually
game.
beat 7?
Yep, I beat it.
Oh, you have superhuman endurance, my
Yeah,
friend.
that deserves a round of
Wait,
applause.
let me just say right now, I've never struggled to beat a game as much as that game. Like
How
it must
long
have
did
take.
it take you?
I'm about to pull out my DS to see, but if I wanted to guess, I want to say it was over 100, 120 hours, something like that. It was. Let me just say this: during Christmas break, like the most recent one, went to my grandma's house and up in New York, and I literally just spent every day just playing that game.
Nice.
Like,
Nice.
the only problem with that game is like once you get to a certain point, you literally just backtrack the whole game. That's all you do. Which, if you don't like backtracking, then well, that's not the game for you.
Correct. But you're like one of the few people I know who's actually managed to finish that game. Congrats, man.
Yeah, you don't know how like you know how satisfying it was to see that credit screen. I was like, I'm
Yeah, I
never
can
playing this
imagine.
game again. Like, no way.
Yeah.
No way. I would play 9 again, play 8 again, play 5. Even the Dragon Quest monster games, and not 7. No.
Oh, I love the monster games personally.
Yeah.
I love Terry's
Yeah.
Adventure and Terry as a character, which is my
Oh,
is my favorite.
dude, blast! I want that game so bad, but it hasn't been brought over. But I know you import stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there is a translation patch if you go that route.
Is there really?
Like, yeah, it's been fully translated by fans. The first Terry's Wonderland remake has been fully translated by fans.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah. For Dragon Quest 11, apparently they went to a vacation in Machu Picchu in Peru to get some inspiration
I read that
on the
too.
location
Yeah.
and all that.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. You know, they're really
Interesting.
dedicated to their craft. So I definitely respect that, and I'll definitely show in the game when it comes out. So
Mhm.
until then,
I'd actually like to bring up something
oh yeah, go
before
ahead.
we end the show. I'm kind of interested to see if we'll see the.
But what is one thing you guys would want to tell whoever's out there in the audience? You can plug whatever, or you can just say whatever you would like, but go.
Well, I just Kendara speaking, and I'd like to tell everyone thanks for listening, and more so to definitely check us out in the future because we'll be doing these monthly, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, this is our first time. I think we did an adequate job, and we'll definitely have some more stuff coming for y'all in the future.
Well, this is Blast Furnace. It was an honor being on the show, and I hope you all enjoyed it and watch more mecha stuff. That's all I gotta say.
Uso, would you like to give a shout out to anything?
All right. This is Uso, and I'm here to say that try playing weird things you've never heard of before, even if you don't like them, or even if they're not necessarily the best. The surprise factor really might help you find some RPGs that will really stick with you in your mind, like they have with me. So play weird, obscure games that nobody really likes, because even if nobody likes them, you might.
Good message. I like that.
That is very good.
I do too. I completely agree.
And so, I'm Darksigner22. I am the host of the podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to us. If you would like to follow the updates of said podcast, including themes of future episodes or even random content here and there, please check out our YouTube channel, which can be found in the bio of the podcast Twitter, which is at N10Podcast. And also, I do plan on starting an RPG book club of sorts. So, if you would like to suggest a game, which I'm sure many of you would like to do, hit me up at Twitter or on the Discord at Darksigner22. And this has been the N10 Podcast. Thank you for stopping by, and we hope to see you next month.